What's going on, guys? Kai here, back with another Legend of Neverland video. Today we're going to be looking at the ninja, both sides, the blazing owl and the burning owl. Let's get into it. Alright, so we're going to start with the blazing owl, also known as perfect blade. Pull this up. We're going to go through everything about it, show you some gameplay, show you some situations, how you can set up your abilities, then walk you through the rest of the build with some options for different fairies and things like that. So as we see right here, each time a skill hits, you get 5% chi. Each time a basic attack hits, you get 1.5% chi. So with both sides of ninja, your basic attacks are important. A lot of classes you'll see, especially in PvP, people use a skill and then move and then not really care, like do a couple basics maybe, but not really utilizing their basic attack. Both sides of the ninja can get a lot out of using their basic. You will also see, once we talk about Kagagure, which is the Shadow Owl, their rotation can be a lot better, especially in PvE, if you weave in a couple of basic attacks. It's going to be very, very important. You get the skill Fatal Blade. You can activate it when you have 100% chi, and it consumes 30% chi, reduces the cooldown of your skills by 20% of their maximum cooldown time. Now this is going to be interesting once we get there, because they could be on purple. You know, when you use the skill, the indicator is blue, but when you click it, it turns purple. If you hit and you trigger it, it will turn purple, so you can use that secondary effect. That first blue version is still on cooldown, so you can do this. You can, for example, throw a skill, it's on cooldown, hold the purple up, and then use this, which will then reduce the cooldown of the blue version of the skill while the purple version of the skill is still up, and it will get this damage increase right here. For 12 seconds, increases attack power by 15% and skill casting speed by 20%. This is, the casting speed could be a big deal, because our fourth skill, we'll go over all the skills, but our fourth skill is very easy to dodge. But if it's 20% faster, obviously a lot harder to dodge. For 12 seconds, the skill abilities, so Fatal Blade, will be changed to Artistry, Ambitious Throw. It costs a full 100% chi, and then you throw out attack, does a fair amount of damage, and heals you for 10% of the damage. Now, usually we're never using this. We are generally abusing the Fatal Blade to get a bunch of cooldown, because if you end up using Ambitious Throw, you will find yourself in a lot of dead spaces with your cooldowns where you won't be able to use the skills as often. But if you just use Fatal Blade to get the cooldown, then swap your class, when you swap back, Fatal Blade will be back up. And remember, you can use it at 100% and it only costs 30%. So when you swap back, you'll be at 70%. So it's very easy to keep going through these loops of 70%, 100%, cost 30 down to 70, and now your cooldowns are effectively 20% less, and you can have 100% uptime on this 12 seconds attack power and casting speed. But Ambitious Throw is something that's nice to have in your back pocket, as a finisher move or as a healing move. It's 1,000% damage, and it heals you for 10% of the damage dealt. Now, also something very important is any of your skills. It's not saying if a Blazing Owl skill hits, you get 5% chi. It's saying when a skill hits. So you can use any of the two other options from Shadow Owl, and this will count for the 5% chi. First skill, Shadow Mirage, with the secondary version, Scythe Weasel. Put down a circle around you for 6 seconds, deals damage over time, and your skill turns into Scythe Weasel. Shoots out, pulls them in, and reduces their movement speed by 80%. I'm not trying to look at the damage numbers because, as you can see, my skills are at level 12. That is from having my glove at a higher level. From Spirit Infusions. Aerial Ace and Falcon Slash. Aerial Ace you can use to be a gap closer or a runaway. If you use it to gap close, it also does a PvP knockup. And if you hit an enemy, it could be PvP or PvE, it then turns into Falcon Slash, which is a jump back and forth dealing some damage, and it makes you a little bit harder to target during that time. My favorite, Stealth Blade, throws a kunai. It's pretty far range. As long as it shows you targeting that person, they're pretty much in your range. And if you hit them, turns into Stealth Blade Rahu, and went for 3 seconds, and Stealth Blade Rahu teleports you behind them, silencing them for 2 seconds, and it puts you right behind them. So it'll put you in range to use anything else. Something I like to do is Stealth Blade from range, and then if it hits, immediately Rahu behind them, and then hit them with the 4th skill, which is Omnidirectional Enemy Slayer. Deals damage, and it also gives you 3 seconds of immunity to CC, knock up, and knock back when you release it. So, very powerful ability, high damage, pretty easy for them to dodge. Ideally, you want to use this when they can't use skills, like I said. With that, another set of CC from a fairy or something is a good way to use this, but that's a decent setup. Let's see if I have anything else here. Alright. As far as the wills, Slaughter is the one I suggest for PvP and PvE. When you have it at level 12, if they're under 60% high damage, and it's every 8 seconds, which is huge. As you see, it goes down in time as you rank it up. I use Slaughter almost every time. For PvE, Mantra is very, very powerful because you're swapping fairy teams. Ideally, in game modes where you're able to swap, like Elemental Realm or such, I'm generally using 3 different fairy teams, and there's at least 1 mantra on each team, which will give me these stacks. As you see, 14% attack, 14% defense, 3 stacks, 1 on each of your teams. You're always going to have a stack going. The attack is the main thing you're getting here, but if you're using a class that gets a buff from defense into damage, like Mechanician or Berserker, you can get a bonus from that defense boost as well. Rigidity is very, very good for if you are primarily a damage dealer, because it allows you to last 1 or 2 extra hits, and it's activated very easily on. Only thing you have to worry about is if you literally get one shot and 2 to 3 actual hits. You want to be using dodges against their bigger hits, taking some of their smaller hits to make rigidity trigger, get that big shield, get that damage reduction for 4 seconds with a 20-second cooldown, use it for that full 4 seconds, then use your dodges and things to make it so this cooldown's back up. But ideally, you should be able to be killing people a lot quicker. Fierce attack, if you want to go full offense, you can go double slaughter, double fierce attack. Pretty decent. God Bless, if you are a tankier build, you can use God Bless over rigidity. This scales better over time than rigidity. Rigidity is pretty much made for the squishier builds to run in last 1 or 2 extra hits while you kill them. Whereas God Bless is if you're tankier, you take a couple hits early, you rack it up, and then you become unkillable as it goes. As far as the generations, Super Strength is a pretty generic one for high HP players, as well as fake HP like Top League and Crystal Battlefield is pretty decent for that. Big 5.1% HP as attack increase is pretty huge. Soul Hunt, you have several ways to slow them, immobilize them. You don't really have stuns besides fairies. So Soul Hunt can just always be a 30% damage increase. These are going to depend on your playstyle. All of these that I'm putting in front of you are good options. You have to decide what works for you. Break Free is your crit option. If you're going high crit, it's very good. Crit rate, crit damage. And Smart Shift is a very sneaky one. I don't see people really using this one, but I think it's very interesting here. When you get HP outside of a lifesteal, get a huge amount of protection and defense for 6 seconds with a 10-second cooldown. How are you doing this? With your passive. Remember the slash that does 1000% damage and then heals you for 10% damage done? This is not technically lifesteal, so it will trigger Smart Shift. And if you have a level 4 Smart Shift, you have that protection rate and defense for 6 seconds, 10-second cooldown. And while you can't have 100% uptime because you're using 100 chi, it'll be every 2 rotations, which will be roughly 14 to 20 seconds, depending on your rotation, your cooldown, stuff like that. So you could have roughly 50% uptime on Smart Shift. So this is a pretty good defensive measure. If you're going crit, Break Free is good. I like Soul Hunt for just always 30% extra damage. And Super Strength is if you generally... I like Soul Hunt for break builds. And Super Strength is just if you have better stats on these until you get something else. Or if you are using like a Water Echo, Super Strength would be very, very good. And you're doing a tankier build, Super Strength is a pretty good one, as well as Smart Shift, like I said. Now let me show you the combos. Alright guys, I couldn't get it to work on the dummy because some of the skills make you dash around and stuff, and it counts the dummy as finished. So I went to a boss to show you the rotation. Now first I'm going to show you what happens on auto, which is a fine thing, and when you look at it and you're doing like ba ba ba, like if you're familiar with fighting games, it'll look like it makes sense for them to use it in this direction, and then I'll show you the correct way to get the most out of it. Boom, boom. And then you have enough for your passive, and then you would swap. And then, so what's happening here is all the abilities are being used, and it's using the passive right before the last one, so one skill's not getting that passive cooldown, as well as your skills aren't getting that bonus damage from the passive. Now, if we let this play out till the cooldowns are done, I believe I'd throw out the passive to make sure we get a good reset. Okay, yeah, use it, and then wait for the cooldowns. No fairies, no nothing. And then here's the proper rotation. You want to use all 4 of the skills. PvP and PvE slightly different depending on what your approach is, what you're playing against, things like this. But ideally all 4 want to be on cooldown, and then the passive goes off. So boom, 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 and then passive, and everything goes on cooldown at the same time. You see that like kind of purple glow to my character? That's telling me I have that bonus damage going on. Swap over to my other class, use my abilities, and then when I swap back, you see I'm still at 70% chi for that ability. Now let's talk about Shadow Owl or Kagagure. Alright, so as far as the wills and such, everything's the same. Pretty much the biggest thing is going to be the abilities themselves and how you use their rotations. So, Kagagure, not Kagagure, that's a Yu-Gi-Oh thing, sorry. Each time a skill's used, get 25% chi. During combat with enemies, gain 8 per second. That's going to play a big role. You're not getting it from the basic attack here, but you're getting it over time, which you need to be in combat for that to count, which using basic attacks will count as combat, so it kind of counts. Your secondary skill is Shadow Clone. It costs 100% chi, consumes all of it, and your next Shadow Owl skill will make a Shadow Clone of you, throw the skill as well, and deal 50% damage. First skill, Shuriken, just throws out Shuriken, pretty good range, and if you're using Shadow Clone, it'll give you Hand Seal. All 3 of your main skills do hand seals, so your 4th skill can do a bonus. Night Owl Protection Enhanced does more damage. Then we have Ninja Tool Shuranai. Throws kunai forward, deals damage, and reduces their movement speed. If you're too close to them, or when you're being controlled, so like if they use Rimuru or anything that's a you can't move skill, you can break it with this ability, as well as if you're too close to someone. You can also use it when you're against 2 enemies as a gap closer. You target it at one person and it throws you back so you can be closer to your real target over here, which is how I love to use this ability. It'll also give you the Seal Plum. Then we have Raikiri, which is the coolest skill in the game. Straight Line Attack also gives you Bamboo. Owl Protection, you can use it from range. Then the last ability, Ninja Owl Protection, resets when you use the ability, and when you use it, it gives you a barrier as well as buffs based on your hand seals. you can hold up to 6 hand seals. So in PvE, one of the best things you can do is stack up hand seals before starting the PvE game mode, such as I generally go for pine and plum and bamboo, which is crit and damage increase. For higher levels of not Shrine Peak, what is it? Path of Fire Sword, you're going to need this plum crit to actually crit these bosses, especially if you can start the match with 3 plums for 45% extra crit. That's huge. And then you'll have, as you level this, it'll be 20, 40, 60% damage increase, which is wild. There's a soft cap after a certain point where it starts getting a little bit less, but effectively, you're looking at 45% or higher extra damage increase, which is pretty wild. Now that we talked about all the abilities, this one right here, Ninja Tool Shurenai, is a skill that I like to use on Perfect Blade as well. I like to give up on the first skill right here, Shadow Ray Mirage. Even though it does have a pull effect and a movement speed slow, which can be good, over here Shurenai also has a slow, a little bit less time, but also has the stand-in that allows me to use skill expression. For better players, they would much rather this skill, because that weasel that pulls them in, it's easy to dodge, and if you have CC, ignore, pull, knockback and knockback and pull effects like priest passive, priest star blessing, then you can ignore the weasel, and people that heal based on damage to them, they could just stand in your smoke and actually heal off of it. It ends up not really mattering. It is 2 skills to get your passive faster, the Perfect Blade, but over here it's roughly the same cooldown, as well as this stand-in effect, allowing you to use it as a gap closer, use it as a slow, use it as a better AoE, and even use it to get out of CC is pretty wild. Now let's show you the combos. Alright, getting right into it. It's going to be pretty quick. Boom. And then basic. And then if you 2 steps and a basic, it's roughly 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds before it starts counting you as out of combat, depending on your frame rate, of course. So by taking that 1.5 steps, 2 steps forward, and using a basic, it triggers it counting as still in combat, which gave me the little bit I needed to get my passive. Boom. Which already have a plum seal. Boom. And like I said, ideally you want to be using it, and this is showing you boom, boom, boom. So that's showing you that even though Raikiri was on cooldown, when you'll use Owl Protection into boosted Raikiri, it pulls it off of cooldown. So you go Owl Protection, Raikiri, Raikiri, which is very, very powerful. And then by the time it's back up, I'm going to be able to, as you see right now, throw a Shuriken, throw the Kurenai, use a couple basics, move around a little bit. Then I'll be able to Shadow Clone Raikiri, and it'll be very, very powerful. Only thing I didn't fully show right here is prepping, but you can do you don't need a target for these skills. So before you start an elemental realm, go over there and hit the crystal, or before you start Path of Fire Sword, where you auto walk up to the crystal and start it, you can stand there and use an ability, Shadow Clone, use another ability, get a hand seal. You have to keep using abilities for it to stack up, but you want 3 plums and 3 of the Raikiri hand seals. Let me know what you guys think down below. As far as the fairies, that's going to depend on what you got. If you want to be more of a damage dealer, if you're going more towards crit, you're going to want fire. If you want to be more of a break damage dealer, as well as some cooldown stuff, wind is very good. If you want to be tankier, water's a good option. And obviously in PvP, if you have holy, that's the best option. Till next time, guys.